ready. I've had several questions about our upcoming narrative module, so I thought I would drop in on you all from my home office and see if I could clarify a couple of things for you. This is a big project. It takes up our last 5 weeks of school, so I expect you to kind of put a lot of effort towards making it a really good one. It's kind of our like course finale where you can kind of bring everything you've learned so far to the table and use it to kind of make a really solid final project. So it's a project that's in 3 parts. I need you to do a written proposal for me, and then we'll do round 1 of pictures. We'll review those, and then we'll do a final round of pictures with a more formal write-up. So it's like it follows a typical module pattern, but we're just spending a little bit more time on it because it's a little bit more meaty. It is different from anything we've done up until this point in the course, in that it is a conceptual project, not a documentary project. So if you think about all the shooting that I've asked you to do up until this point, I've basically given you something to go and look for in the real world as we know it, to photograph whatever it is I've asked you to look for, using all of the tools of photography that you've learned, your elements, your principles, your sort of organizational tools of photography to kind of accurately capture the real world as you see it. That's what we've done with composition, with street photography, and with portraiture. Now we're shifting gears, and instead of asking you to take a picture of what you see, I'm asking you to create an image based on what you think. So this begins with an idea, and then you take your pictures to kind of convey or communicate that idea to your audience. So it requires a little bit more advanced planning than, say, street photography, where you just go out and the whole fun of that project is that you don't really think too hard about it. You just photograph what you see. This is really different. You've got to do a lot of thinking on the front end, and then what the photography element is you experimenting with how to take a picture that like best communicates that thinking or that idea. So what's due next week is a proposal and your first batch of images. Now, if you think about that, probably it doesn't make any sense to do those things at the same time, right? You probably want to do your proposal first. So I would make that your first priority. And the reason is, if you don't have a good idea or a good foundational concept, like, this is not going to work, and you're always going to be just kind of running behind and trying to play catch up or trying to get yourself to where you want to be with the project. So spend your time really thinking about A, your idea, and B, how you're going to try to communicate it. I've given you some themes as a prompt. Dream, nightmare, fame, infamy, virtue, and vice. Those are just starting points. You can be as literal or as open-ended with those as you want to be. Those are just words to help your brainstorming process start. If you have kind of thought about those themes and you're still just like, I don't know what the world she wants me to do with this, maybe look into definitions or just do sort of basic Google searches about like themes of virtue in art, and that'll kind of help get the juices flowing. I've had students ask me about things like 7 deadly sins and how they might fit into these themes as sort of a metaphorical structure, and those work great. You really have a lot of freedom here with how you choose to kind of think about these big, broad topics. It's really, really open-ended, and it's open-ended for a reason, and that reason is because I want you to really come up with a cool idea. You can kind of interpret those however you want. I've had students in the past think about current events, how sort of classical art themes fit into our current like socio-political climate, that's an option. Other people kind of try to sort of reproduce pieces of classical art. I mean, this is really sort of, you can do with this whatever you want to do, as long as you think it through, and do your planning. With the proposal, I'm not looking for a really flowery academic essay, but I am looking to see that you've spent more than like 3 minutes brainstorming the thing. Okay, so I've got lead questions. If you just go through and answer those questions point by point by point, you'll get the minimum amount of credit for doing the work. But I will give the best grades to those proposals that I see that show me that the student has really thought about this, and like about the concept, and really sort of developed a concept fairly well. This is what I want to talk about. This is why I want to talk about it. This is how I think I can do it. I think it's going to work because, X. So the more developed and articulated your concept is in this proposal, like the higher the grade you're going to get. Okay, so that's why I say focus your time on really thinking about what it is that you want to do. Then when it comes time to taking the photos, I think I asked you for 20 at a minimum. Those do not have to be 20 different ideas. What I'm looking for is one idea and 20 different experiments with how you're going to convey it. Okay, so say you chose the idea of a nightmare, and you kind of want to talk about just sort of an altered reality that you find nightmarish, and so you've kind of made a plan. You're gonna take your room, and you're gonna play with the lighting and change the sort of nature of the reality of the room, and take a picture of it in such a way that it really feels anxious and nightmarish, and that's your project. Okay, you don't need to create 20 different rooms and take a picture of each one. You just need to do, create your artificial space and then photograph it 20 different times, so that you can kind of tell the best way, to work, so that your idea gets communicated the most clearly. Okay, so again, the number of pictures that we want may seem high, but I'm not expecting you to do 20 different projects. I'm expecting you to take one idea and experiment with how to photograph it, a number of different times. Just like an artist, if he's sitting down, a painter rather, to make a painting, you do an underpainting, you do some sketching, you maybe do like anywhere from 1 sketch to 100 sketches before you start the final thing. These photographs for part 1 are the sketches for this whole assignment. Okay, so that's the proposal, and that's round 1. Then we go into the reviews, which should work the way they always have. I'm not going to do peer review assignments this time. I'm just going to trust you all to sort of do your best with it. The peer reviews, the video reviews, are a work in progress every semester, and this semester is no different. We've had issues here and there, but we're just going to do them how we did them with the composition assignment, and hope for the best. I will also be providing feedback, and so will the other graders. Now, for the final, what we're looking for is your very best work to date. So I'm going to ask for one single image that does everything that I need it to do, and then we'll ask for a sort of more formal artist statement that accompanies it, and that will be the project. So in that artist statement, I'm going to need you to be able to kind of articulate what it is that you were going for, and how well you feel your photograph kind of does that. So that's the project. Things that I want you to think about as you're working on it, if you know like Photoshop and Lightroom and some of the other sort of editing software, you're more than welcome to use it. But since we don't teach it, we're not requiring it. So if you're like, I don't know what Photoshop is, or if you're like, I hate Photoshop, or just I don't want to spend the time messing with it, you don't have to. This is a project that can be done completely without any any of those technologies. If you are working without the help of something like Photoshop or photo editing software, then I would encourage you to think in a really elemental way about how pictures work and what you can do when you go to take a picture to kind of change the reality of the situation. Because remember, narrative photography is unreal. It's either unreal or surreal or hyperreal, but you're somehow changing your actual reality. So how can you do that without technology? Well, lighting is a huge one. Think about how much lighting can really change an image. In this particular video, I'm sitting in a room that has kind of like beige walls, and I've got a really yellow, like gross floor lamp in here, and I'm wearing like a pumpkin colored sweater. So I'm coming at you like real warm and kind of gross. So like that's just a function of one light in this whole room plus an open window. So lighting is so important and can really alter the mood or the nature or the color of a photograph. So that is something you can easily experiment with without having to rely on Photoshop, without having to bring in a huge number of people to kind of be your actors or whatever. Think really simplistically. If you do want to kind of create or stage a scene the way some of the artists in the lectures have done, that's fair game. But just remember, if you do that, I don't want you to just create a scene and then straight shoot it as if you were a documentary photographer. That's a trap a lot of students fall into with this project. They like spend a lot of time, having friends act out something or other, but then they just shoot it head on from an eye level perspective. Well, that's still just a documentary photograph. It's just a photograph of people dressed up in weird costumes. Okay, don't think that way. Think like, how can I change? What can I do with the image itself to sort of change the reality and make it more story-like than real? Okay, it's a kind of a cerebral concept, but that's what we're going for here with this. As you're kind of thinking about your idea, I would encourage you to just go back and look at those artists that are in the lectures. If you just take a name and then just do a Google search, like their work is so good and it's so compelling. And I think the more other artists' work you see, the more it will help you kind of think, okay, this is what she's looking for. I also have some examples of student work. I'm hesitant to put them on the module live because I don't want you to get too influenced by what your peers have done in the past. But if you are 100% stuck, get in contact with me, and I have some resources I can throw your way. But the main point is to have fun, be creative, and don't get so bogged down in details that it becomes overwhelming. Think basics, think simple, think of what you know and how to use what you know to kind of change your reality a little bit. And then I think everybody will be in a really good place. So that's that. As always, if you have questions, you want to sit down and run some ideas by me or whatever, just shoot me a note. I'm happy to talk. If we can't, jam over email, we can maybe find meeting times, or we could do, video chats or whatever. But use me as a resource. Definitely look in more detail at some of the artists mentioned in the lectures, and then just brainstorm, and I think you'll do fine. All right. So good luck, and let me know if you need anything. Thanks, guys.